Well, fellas, we're back with the Drivers Project presented by Kaiser Wheels, and we've got a guest with us today. We have Shane Golobic, who did okay at the Chili Bowl, and then we got Sam, Dom, and JJ with us. So we're getting pretty kinky here with five guys. First of all, Shane, could you talk us through your Chili Bowl, because that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you can't ask for much of a better week for our Matt Wood Racing team. Honestly, like I'm just super happy for Matt. It went so well to have three guys in the top five is pretty cool. I think it's only happened like three times before. Now this is the fourth, and they were all by Keith and Pete. So for a little team of wing guys from California who race midgets once a year, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to come in and do that. Definitely a week we'll never forget.
Okay, Sam, what have you been up to the last week or two?
Man, just trying to get all my finishing touches up on my stuff before I go to Volusia because we're going on vacation for like 5 days on Wednesday. So I get back and pretty much haul ass to Florida.
Dom, what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh, the wonderful worlds of transportation. Got drivers pissing off customers. I've got customers pissing off drivers. It's been a great world. Honestly, the only thing that's kept me sane the last 2 or 3 weeks has been the shootout in the Chili Bowl. So, I gotta say, it was a hell of a disappointing night when that guy stopped at 3 and 4 when you were leading on the last lap, Shane. That was in the bag. You had that one.
JJ, we haven't had you on for a while. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I got to go home to Washington to visit my family and friends and loved ones for a few weeks there, and then just made the trip back out to Iowa. Took a U-Haul, and me and my guy Blake Cook went across the country with a U-Haul and had about 3 wheel bearings go out on the trailer. And feel like I'm a black belt at changing wheel bearings on the trailer on the side of the road now, and glad to be back in Iowa.
Nice. So we're going to go through each night at the Chili Bowl, and Dom just referred to night one. Shane, you pretty much had it in the bag. Could you take us through your night and what happened there late?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the night went really well to start. Finally drew something bigger than like a single digit number. I feel like a lot of years I've drawn really small numbers and just had to win the heat and then win the qualifier and then start like eighth in the feature, and it's always tough. So I think it was like 5-1 in the heat, 6-1 in the qualifier. Started on the pole and kind of got to racing back and forth with Ken and McIntosh there for a little while, and got myself kind of back out in front, and felt like I had it in the bag coming down the backstretch. Felt a little pressure from Kyle in 1 and 2, but got a really good run down the backstretch and felt like I was gonna be okay. And somebody, I don't even know who it was, but somebody tipped her over there in 3 and 4, and then you got a green white checkered with Kyle behind you. It's tough to know what to do. Obviously, looking back, there's some things I probably could have done different, but just got tripped up on the curved entry to 3, coming to white, and just couldn't recover. Just kind of dicked up the last restart, green white checkered, and gave one away there to Kyle, and still locked in, which is cool. But man, it's tough to swallow for sure.
If you win that race, where do you finish in the Chili Bowl?
I don't know. I mean, obviously we run third, which is great. Those two out front were getting it there with Kyle and Dason, and they were running a whole lot harder than I was willing to there early on. And so you never know. We had a car with Landon start on the front row, and there was a point in the race there where I thought he was going to win. He looked really, really good running across the slick to run the slider line and got to second, and he was doing a heck of a job. So, I mean, our cars were capable. You know, you just never know. I don't think a Chili Bowl's been won from beyond like the first 2 rows in like 10 or 15 years or something crazy. So starting 8th, I knew it was going to be tough. But, you know, I think we were still there with somewhat of a shot at the end, which is kind of the goal.
Yeah, so like you were saying, the small was it a small member you were talking about, or a small number, whatever it is? I feel bad for Sarah if it's a small member, but the small numbers there can really bury you. And when you come off the front row, like what is your mindset change like when you draw a 12 versus like a 78 on your preliminary night, because you've been going so long, and I know you've gotten both?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a low pill draw has kind of become my like least favorite thing. It makes your night easier in a sense. You like all you have to do is just win every time you're on the track, leading up to the feature, which a lot of times isn't the hardest thing to do. Like usually the heat races are so watered down now with so many prelim nights. that's usually pretty manageable. And then you got to go maybe second or third to win your qualifier. And the thing is, it kind of handcuffs you because the best you're going to start is maybe seventh. Like and to win a 30 lap prelim from seventh is tough. So I the bigger the number, the better. I trust myself in managing traffic and stuff on in heat races with some of the slower cars. So I just pray for the biggest number possible. And we actually didn't get that very often this week with our team. I got the big number to start, and then everybody else was like a 9, a 20, a 20, and then I think Pittman got the 99, which was cool. But yeah, we had the majority of kind of smaller numbers, which makes it tough.
So were you this good in practice? Did you unload this good in practice? Like, when did you guys find this speed?
No, like honestly, so that's another thing that kind of I was pretty fired up Monday with just being frustrated with the Chili Bowl and how they run their stuff. I drew we're Monday prelim, so we got put in group number 4 for hot laps on Sunday, which the first time I go out, it's dead grease, track sucks, didn't learn a damn thing. Then I go out, set 76 out of 80 or whatever it was, over a full business day later. Like it's 9 hours in between the times I'm in the car and back, work on all the other cars 8 times and then get back in. And there's 4 sessions left and it's slick to a curb. And I'm like, oh, I might learn something here. Well, they go right out before our set and just missed the whole thing and make it an ice rink. And it's dead grease all the way around. They give us about 2 laps to work it in. I'm out the side, the big thumbs down. This is, what are we doing? Wasting our time. Oh, green flag. We slide around. I'll never go past quarter throttle. Whole day's ruined. Like I spent my whole day here, didn't get any good laps. So that was frustrating for sure. So yeah, no, I didn't feel good whatsoever. Our other cars looked really good. But me, I got 0 meaningful laps, and I was pretty frustrated.
Does anyone have any other questions for Shane about his night before we go on to the other nights?
It kind of sounds like you're in California. Hey, let's work it at the wrong time, water it at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Shane, where do you guys get your tire dope from?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Our shit was ripping. I'll tell you that.
I need to get some of that stuff because, like, undetectable, like, man, poor Clinton. I guess Simple Green's not the answer. You're going to have to find something else.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Don't worry, people. So it seems like every year at the Chili Bowl, there's a night where it just goes off the rails. That was definitely night 2. I don't think anyone, and this isn't to shit on him, but I don't think anyone had Brennan Crouch on the bingo card as like the guy who's going to lead most of the A main. And then your driver, obviously Landon Brooks, gave him a hell of a run and got him late. Could you kind of talk about Landon's night?
Yeah, so Landon did a heck of a job, honestly. Like, so he was one of our guys who he looked almost as bad as I did hot lapping on practice day. He just looked uncomfortable. He looked kind of like timid. You know, you're used to seeing him just gas the shit out of stuff, and he just kind of looked timid. And then hot laps on his night looked bad. Heat race barely won it. Was getting tracked down by guys who he should have been putting a straightaway on. Just did not look good. Qualifier, about halfway through, he's running second, I think, and he's just getting bullied around by these guys in the qualifier, and he's just not quite really getting after it. He just didn't look himself, and kind of got lucky there that Rugenberg basically destroyed Buddy there and put him in the fence, and there's a big open red, and we were able to go out there, and he just kind of looked like deer in the headlights just a little bit, like he just wasn't doing Landon Brooks things, and so we kind of got to have a little like chit chat and just kind of like get him back going again. And then he was able to go 2-1, get by RTJ there for the win. And that propelled him to start better in the feature. And it just, his whole thing turned around just like that. And then in the feature, he just ran a flawless race, like professional, made the right moves at the right times. Me and Ryan were sitting next to each other in the grandstands, racing the car from the grandstands. I'm not a race fan watcher. Like, I'm not very good at watching races in the grandstands. I don't do it very often. Like, I do it really 4 times a year when my other 4 guys are racing. So I was a complete rookie up there, just screaming and yelling and pointing him to go to the top slider line. And every time I would, like, my instinct would think he should do something, he would pretty much do it, or he would do something better than I was thinking. And he was doing a great job. So it was pretty cool to see that. And couldn't have happened to a better kid. Like, he's the hardest worker on the team, and he was there every morning, sweeping, cleaning panels, wouldn't say no to any job I'd give him, and definitely proud of him. He did a good job.
Now, you California guys, you guys pretty much, this was not a surprise to you. Like, this may have been a shock to people nationally, but California guys have basically known this guy's been legit for a while now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. He's you aren't gonna roll in and beat the 94 with Landon driving it at Chico or Placerville, or really Landon getting in anything. He hammers it and he does a great job. You're not gonna come to Red Bluff and beat him in an outlaw cart. Um, yeah, the California stuff is tough. I mean, you got guys who people don't think about at all. Like Landon, where you're just not going to come in and think you're going to beat him. Like, it's just not going to happen. So it was not a surprise to me whatsoever. I was actually texting with Kyle Hurst the morning before. He had texted me, good job for my night. And I said, man, the night I'm really excited about is tonight. I got a good feeling about this. And sure enough, Landon, he stepped up and he made it happen. And we gave him a car capable of running good. And he exceeded expectations. He ripped.
Yeah. So like, talking about the locals in California, I've got to come out and say it. I think Landon did a great job, but it was a little disappointing that you weren't the guy to get the first win. Like I wouldn't, I wouldn't kid about that. I mean, it sucked that you didn't get the first win for Matt in that building. But like when you think of like local California guys, Tanner Thorson was a local California sprint car guy. He was running in the top 5 and broke. Then you've got Corbin Ruschenberg, who's a local California kid. Rolling up, we've got Corey Day was a local just 2 years ago, like a kid local. Logan Seavey ran local stuff a few years ago for a long time. Buddy was a local. Landon Brooks is a local. Ryan's the most local Smoky of all. And you're running a local guy. Like, to me, this rundown is a Placerville Saturday night show.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Yep. Absolutely. It's, I mean, people sleep on California. It ain't even fair. Like it's so hard to come in and beat a guy like you or Justin or, myself or Landon or Ryan when he shows up and Jimmy's got his stuff tuned up just right. I mean, you ain't going to beat any of these guys and just, it's just not easy.
Absolutely. And you've got guys like Torgerson and Tanner Carrick and Mitchell Moles and Michael Facino, all local, like 360 sprint car guys, all through in the A and B main. And to me, I just think that says so much about the talent that you race against weekly out here. And, for a guy like you, you've been to the Chili Bowl. I don't know how many times you've made it. 10 times, 9 times now?
Yeah, 8. I've been to 18 of them. Landon was 3 years old when I ran my first. I've never felt so old in my life. We were messing with him at lunch one day. He had no idea what a MySpace top 8 was. Absolutely embarrassing. He had no idea what AIM was with the screen name and all that. Like, no clue.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I've run 18 Chili Bowls. I've made the feature 12 times now.
Now, what of all the Chili Bowls that you've ran? Obviously, this one you ran great, but was there one that you felt like I had such a great shot at this one or the other one?
This one felt good. They've all felt good, man. I've honestly, like, way back in the day, I'd run Doug Boxcar, who just passed away recently too. Doug, he gave me my first shot in a midget. Like, I had never raced a midget before, and he let me go run. And his car was nothing special, but we ripped in that building with him, and like we just showed up, and he had like a 50-gallon fuel tank on it, and we had an old S-Slinger, and I mean it wasn't nothing special, but I've just always kind of felt good in there, and just kind of like I can't really pick a year that stands out above the others so much personally for me, but like this year, obviously as a whole team and being a part of multiple cars and stuff, I mean, nothing's going to top this. It's pretty cool. And Matt's been doing this forever. And we basically keep these 5 midgets in the corner all year just for this race. And like, that's a lot of money and stuff to be sitting on all year just for this. So to be able to bring it back out is pretty cool. And so, yeah, this was the most special for sure. Just because I know how pumped he was about it.
Anyone have any more questions about that night before we move on?
No, I was just going to say I noticed Landon Brooks, like he started off, and I didn't think he looked that hot to start the night, but it seemed like the longer the night went, it's like he kept getting more and more comfortable, and then like towards the end of the race, it's like he smelled blood and just pounced on him. Like it's almost like at first, like watching him, it was like he felt like he didn't belong at first, is what it looked like to me. And then all of a sudden, like he got some confidence. Then all of a sudden, like it's like you snap his fingers. And I've never seen a guy Like when I watched the first heat race with him in it, when I watched his heat race, I've never seen a guy transform that much in one night. It was pretty cool to watch because I would have never thought, like in the feature, I'm looking at the rundown. I'm like, man, I seen him earlier tonight. He's not going to be a guy to win this deal. And then I think midway through the feature is like, for me, I was like, he's for real. And then, into Saturday, same thing. Like it was like, I thought, oh, front row, man, he's going to probably fall back some. But dude, for him to only fade to fifth by the end, that was fucking impressive. And he was running some times early in the race that, he was catching Larson at points. So unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. Like I had to almost rip him in the middle of the night. Like, dude, where's the Landon that runs the 94? Like, where's the guy that's chasing me at Chico, making me press just to burn laps, just to keep him off me? Like, let's get going. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to get you there. Like, we need to get you to be like you are with Kyle and Steven out there, because that's the guy we need. And then he just he didn't get all pouty and say, that, oh, he's being hard on me. He just snapped out of it and he started ripping. And then yeah, Saturday I'm like, this kid's gonna wax my ass. I better step up, or I'm gonna be the slow guy on the team.
So I remember a few years ago at Trophy Cup, I don't know if he'd even won a race at that point, but he started on the pole and there were some good guys around him, and I had got to second really early, and I ran him down, and I genuinely was just waiting for the mistake, and I'm like, I'm gonna blow by him. Like, I'm not worried about him because he wasn't running good laps. And then lap 10 or 12 comes around and he starts running cleaner. And then lap 18, 20 runs around and he's miles faster than what I'm running. And I'm putting on a good pace. And then we had a green white checkered, and Rico actually got by both of us. But I remember that being dude, this Landon Brooks is 100% for real. And it was kind of the same thing. He transformed the first 5 or 6 laps. I'm like, yeah, just don't get caught up in this mess. You'll go right by him and you'll be able to get away from these guys. And then lap 15, I'm thinking, holy shit. I didn't put him away early. I'm not going to put him away now. And he's really progressed. So it's cool to see the success that he had. And obviously I think it helps a young guy like that having, the group that you bring. Those guys are great in race cars. And they're really good at what they do. So when you got a guy like Colby and Ryan and yourself being able to, work on those kids like that, man, that's a tough thing to beat.
Yeah. And one more thing to touch on him that young kids need to watch. Go back and rewatch that race and watch Landon reel in Brenham, track him down, methodically think his way through the race, and then pull the trigger and know, oh, he pulled too early and he left a lane for Brenham to continue back around. And he said, okay, I'm faster. I'm going to regroup and I'm going to chalk one up and I'm going to get just a little bit further across. And he was able to pull it off, but he didn't go in there. He had every opportunity to let it just slide all the way across and just run Brenham all the way up over the curb and probably win the race easily, but he did it the right way and he was smart about it. And that's the thing that young midget racers and sprint car racers just probably should look at and be like, man, you can do it the right way.
That's actually what I was going to ask you about. What feedback did he give you after that qualifier? I actually tweeted that was some of the dumbest racing I'd ever seen in my life, just in terms of people just hanging each other out to dry, putting each other in bad spots. What did he actually say after that race? What was...
He he didn't get to see a lot of it being in the car, but he got to hear about a lot of it anyway, or obviously, but he just got out and he had a little bit of a different swagger to him. He kind of just, he didn't really say much. He's a quiet kid. He's quieter than even I am. And I'm I just go to the races and I hang out in my trailer and then I race and I go home. He's just as quiet as me. And I see a little bit of him, of myself in him. And he just kind of got out and he just kind of had a little yeah, we're good. He kind of had a swagger and he said, car's good. I'm ready now. And he just was ready to go. He didn't really have much to say. He's a quiet kid, but when he's right, he's right.
JJ, do you have any questions so far?
I was just curious how much you think running a 360 at Placerville actually relates to, transfers to running a midget around Chili Bowl. Because all those guys you're talking about, based on what you're saying, it's I wouldn't imagine a sprint car is very similar, but it seems like the way Placerville races, I've raced a 360 there. I've never raced a Chili Bowl, but I could see it actually maybe transferring over a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Especially this year too. And then if you think about it, all our guys are pretty good at Placerville and Tulare. And the way that the racetrack was this year, it was perfect for us. It worked out. You're either running a real technical curb or, a curb that's ramped up on the wall, kind of like Tulare does. And so, yeah, I think obviously the cars are completely different. Everything's different, but just the ability to kind of know how to run a curve like that is definitely huge for us California guys.
So after a night of craziness on Tuesday, we got a pretty sane night on Wednesday. Axum actually was able to get by Pursley early. Pursley chased him pretty much the whole way through. Did you guys have any thoughts on that race? To me, my first question is did Pursley finish worse than second in any race all week?
I think he ran second on everything.
That's what he said. He ran second and everything.
Yeah, like I think he was a lot of seconds there. I actually told Sam early in the week that I thought he looked incredible. I was actually surprised Axum beat him, but I thought that was a pretty interesting race. You guys have any thoughts on it before we get into Shane's night there?
I think the reason Axum won that night, Axum basically said that he couldn't run the curb very well with that car. However, Keith was setting it up for him or whatever he was doing wrong. He didn't like place blame on anything, but he said when the curb gets lipped up like that and gets rolled up, he's not been very good. So like, I think that night it didn't do it near as much as it did any other night. And I think that's the reason that he probably was like, I feel like Axum I thought he was pretty damn good all week until, and he was right. Like when the track did get that way, they weren't good. And he said he couldn't figure out if it was him or if it was something that Keith does to the car. But Pursley was exact opposite. Like when it got tough and hard to run, like I felt like he did it better than Larson did, to be honest.
So Shane, that was probably your toughest night if memory serves. Could you take us through Colby's night?
Yeah, I kind of agree with the way the track was. I think that didn't really play into our favor. Like our guys are all like kind of like I was saying, we all run slick technical curves a lot. We're pretty good at it, and kind of like with the way our team works, we all kind of want like an old man type of curve, like where you can't it's just not all about holding the throttle wide open and getting through there. It needs to be like for us to be good. A lot, like pretty much all of us except Landon, like he'll hustle it more than all of us. He's probably the youngest, but with Colby and myself and like Pittman, especially the three of us, we're kind of old kind of guy curves, like where it takes a little bit of a finesse and some, you got to hustle it, but it's not just all 100% about hustling it. And I think that was the one night where there was that long stretch where it just was a real easy top to run, and it just didn't really play into Colby's favor. And there was a couple times he missed the bottom real bad, and I think he got past. He got split on both sides a couple times, just not hitting the bottom quite right. So it was just not really one of our nights. But I think if it would have been a little bit of a more technical, like really difficult curve to run, maybe he would have had a better run. But it's just one of those things. Like you have to have things go right, and we had a lot of things go right, but just unfortunately none of it went right for Colby.
So between you three guys at that point, were you guys all running the same stuff, or does each driver like different stuff?
So like all the cars are built identical, like everything, just structure wise, parts wise, everything. Like I build them all the same, but I can't get away with setting them up and getting them prepped the same for everybody. Everybody's just different. Like Landon weighs 125 or 140 pounds or something, and then you got Colby and Ryan who are up by 200. So I mean, it's we have to do things different for body weight and just driving style. Ryan's a little more of a non-wing kind of back it in kind of guy, where we got Darren Pittman who drives it off the right front really hard, and I feel like Colby's kind of somewhere in the middle. And so yeah, we're doing different things with everybody, but the kind of main theory behind each of our cars is pretty similar, and especially Colby's. Like I feel like Colby and mine are usually pretty dang close, just because we're similar in size and weight, and usually driving style we're pretty close as well. So yeah, I mean it's a balance throughout the whole week, just trying to figure out what works for everybody. But yeah, unfortunately we just couldn't quite get Colby comfortable enough for him to hustle it.
What's the hardest thing for you, like throughout the weekend? Like, because to me, one thing that I thought about was during the pole shuffle, you had 3 cars and you've set 3 cars up and now you're sitting there. Like, was that harder, or like what was the hardest point for you of the week?
Yeah, so like that's why I go first. I always make sure I go Monday because the week just drags on for me. Like it's a long week and it's a lot of mental. Like like in many senses, that Monday is the easiest night for me because it's just a normal night of racing. It's the same way we do it back home. Obviously I didn't have my brother there, so that made it a lot tougher. But that's the norm for me. So I can get that night out of the way, and then the rest of the nights are just full stress and full just trying to make everybody's cars good and just give them the best opportunity to run good. So yeah, it was super weird. Like this is the first time I've had multiple cars in the feature running in the same place on the racetrack. Usually we kind of get strung out, and yeah, it was super weird. We had to go borrow crew members just to get our cars down to the infield for the full shuffle. And then we also had to borrow crew members to get the cars down the ramp through the tunnel and stuff for driver intros. And so like it was one of those deals where yeah, I mean, I'm like debating. I got to like fourth behind Landon, and he was ripping, in the feature on Saturday. And I was like debating pulling up next to him, and then like, man, it looks like you might need a little bit of right rear tie down here. Like I wanted to pull up next to him and help him, but then I want to pass him too. And it's like, man, it's tough being the crew chief and the driver at the same time. It's a really weird feeling. So yeah, that was a first for me for sure. And I didn't really love it. Like it's nerve wracking for sure.
So when your cars went down the ramp for the A main, did any of them smash into the car in front of them?
Oh, I probably the guys who are driving those things down the ramp, they've never driven anything in their life, so there's a possibility they were running.
I'm asking that for a reason.
Did they? Did somebody run into one of them?
When Sam and I made the Chili Bowl with Sean McClellan, we put a crew guy in the car to roll it down the ramp. He couldn't hit the brake, and he just smoked the four-wheeler in front of him.
Oh, no.
It wasn't that he couldn't hit the brake. He literally didn't know it swung forward, I guess. He's trying to push it down. And I asked him before, like we stopped the car before we went down the ramp. I said, do you feel it? Yeah. Okay. He gets down there, and the four-wheeler's on the car behind him, and this poor bastard jumps over the four-wheeler, pushes the four-wheeler all the way against the Jersey barrier on the right side. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
They almost wouldn't let us race. He goes, does that car have brakes? I'm like, yes, it has brakes.
Yeah, you feel like a badass. You get Sean McClellan in the show and then push him down the ramp, and you're just like, oh, where's a bag to put on my head? He smoked the four-wheeler. So the next night, I actually got sick, and I'm sick today. So I didn't actually get to watch the A-Main until 8 laps to go, and then I watched the highlights. But man, from everything I could see there, that just looked epic. That looked like an incredibly interesting battle, an incredibly interesting night. Obviously, Thorson took the win. Bell was probably setting up a slider, but Bernal was able to get there to keep him from doing it. What did you see from your point of view, Shane?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a roller coaster of a race there for sure. Yeah, Ryan, like I said, Ryan showed up this past week like in a whole new way. It was Ryan from 2012 to Larry, like where he just showed up and there wasn't anybody that was going to beat him. Like he showed up with the right mindset, and just from the word go, from practice day, he was ripping, and he just looked good, and he was making the right moves. And then, yeah, I mean, he hit, like we joked with him. It was actually our tire guy, T Light. He had a pretty good one after the races the next day. Ryan was still a little bummed, but he said, "Man, Ryan, you hit everything on the racetrack except the bottom coming to the checker." and yeah, I think if he hits it, I mean, maybe something happens there, but yeah, he missed it by a country mile. And he actually, Ryan was lighthearted about it. He texted me the next morning, or no, he actually came down to the lobby in the hotel, and he said, "Man, I'm still looking for the bottom, and I cannot find it." And so he knew he missed it, but yeah, I mean, I thought coming down the backstretch, I did the old rookie mistake of like standing up out of my seat, like we're gonna win, and then yeah, he missed it, and it felt like it took him 2 years to get through 3 and 4. And luckily, he was able to wheelie it back across and still lock in. But yeah, man, I thought he was going to get it there.
You know what's wild is like watching the race, I'm yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering. But when he came off turn 2, like obviously it's different when you're in the grandstands or watching. Like the first thing I thought was like, if he just carries that speed into 3 and slides himself, like it's game over. No one's going to cross it, or and like that was the first thing I thought. But I like looking from the outside in, it almost seemed like Ryan didn't even realize where he was at.
Yeah. No, I think I think that kind of crossed his mind as well. Like he got excited and he's like thinking maybe he could slide across, and then he kind of realized like, oh, maybe I'm not going to. And but the way he hit the bottom in 3 and 4 coming to white, if he had done that again, like he made good time down there. So
Yeah.
you never know. You never know. He could have still run second and just made it closer, but yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be Ryan if it didn't go that way. You know, he's just he's just the funniest guy you'll be around. So like now we'll never forget how bad he missed the bottom.
Right after the race, he had in his interview, he's hilarious. He's like, man, I hit the bottom every single lap except the last one. Like, I mean, it's just, he's obviously got a pretty good attitude about it.
Yeah.
Now, there was a rumor going around that he actually came into this race pretty pissed off because he wasn't in the TDP top 100 rankings. Could you take us through that, please?
Yeah, he was pretty upset about that, and honestly, I was too. I'm a homer, obviously. Like he's my buddy, it has been for like 25 years or something since we were little kids in quarter midgets. So, yeah, like I thought it was an abomination that he didn't make it to the top 100, to be honest. But I mean, I guess he didn't run that many races, but I mean, he ran like I think like maybe he had maxed 5 starts with the Outlaws and High Limit and had 2 top 10s. Like that's got to count for something.
Should be in.
And I think now, obviously, he'll be back on everybody's radar. He's not just a PG&E guy anymore. He still knows how to get around there.
Yeah, just for the record, voting on 50 through 100 is really hard.
Yes, it is. I would challenge anybody. Like when I was doing this list, like it's pretty easy to do the first 30 to 40.
Yeah.
And that even gets tough. But when you get down to like 50 to 100, it's like, man, okay, like a normal guy, like from where I'm from, you don't get to see a lot of California races. And then you get to see some posse races, but not much. Like everybody in the posse's bitching, oh, our guys should be higher up. And it's like, well, dude, it's not what we nationally see. I mean, it doesn't take anything away from, like, there's so many drivers that are not even, I mean, not where, I guess, I don't even know if you could pick a track to take everybody to and said, okay, this is our bar. Let's go by this. But you'd have to have like a 10 race series with 200 drivers to maybe figure this out. And it's really hard. Like, I feel like I know quite a bit about racing and about sprint car racing. And then when you go to that 100 list, it's like, first off, you need to figure out about 150 guys to gauge off of. And most people can't even come with 150 guys. So, man, it's tough. I would challenge – what we need to do, Daryl, is we need to make like a top 100 list and have like online people fill it out. Figure out a way to do that, Daryl.
No anonymous names.
No, I don't want any fans. I just want drivers to do it. But
okay,
but like,
that'd be badass too.
And then the other switch I'm gonna make to it is I think we'll only do North America next time. I agree. Like it's so hard for Sam and I to gauge like Australians. Like we were talking about Jamie Veal. Like all these Australians are
yeah.
They're pissed off because, oh my God, you have Jamie Veal here and Lockie McHugh here and Callum Williamson here. And it's like, I saw Jamie Veal run incredible at the 2016 Knoxville Nationals. And then you go, oh, well, that was 9 years ago. And then I go, yeah, but Jamie Veal's not so old that he's forgotten. He's not at that point where he's forgotten what he can do. And I've never seen Lockie McHugh come close to doing that. So, like...
That's because he can't catch flights.
And his alarm clock doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like the one like Sam's talking about is we had Washington guys on us because of where we put Solwald, and it's like I went to Skagit for every year I go to Skagit, all the Washington guys tell me Solwald's old and washed up, and then Solwald runs great. And it's like I went to Skagit this year, he's the highest finishing Washington driver in 6th. What do you want me to say? Like that's how he looked when I saw him.
It's
and then
tough,
you have Washington.
It's like being in the 10th round of your fantasy football draft and you get done and then you go to the free agent list and there's all these guys like, oh, I would have just had them. I mean, it's really tough trying to decide.
Yeah, especially if you're Brock Zierfoss. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, bro, I took so much shit. I did the top 10 this year, sent it to you guys and said I'm out.
Hey, Shane, are you hearing all that?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of excuses going on as to why Ryan didn't make it. He was in my top 10. All these guys were like, hey, top
Yeah.
one.
If he was in your top 10, he'd ended up like 30th.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I didn't even know Ryan was running not much wing stuff at all. I'll be honest. I didn't know.
That's what I did with Bernal is like I don't think you race enough. And then
Well, a big problem is there's
And then-
no 360 on flow out there either.
yeah, and then I'll give you a great example. Like two of us had Kyle Larson as 100% first, and one of us had Larson fourth, and one of us had a second, and the reason was because he didn't race enough. Like no one doubts that he's the fastest, but you do got to get a penalty for. It's harder to be good over 50 races than it is
Driver's
over
Project
20.
penalty from Daryl.
I said we basically got to get the 360 racing in California off of OnlyFans.
Well,
Yeah.
dude, it's tough. It's on like Cali Dirt or whatever, which is good, but you know, the majority of the people aren't going to pay for a subscription to watch racing that goes green at 1 a.m. for us. You know, it's just it's
I
it's
will
awesome
be honest with
when
you.
you're out here.
My parents, they subscribe to it.
Yeah,
And they're like, hey, it's good coverage. It's really good coverage. But I have personally never purchased a race that I can remember. I mean, my wife might have, but I have never personally purchased a race from it because it's like, dude, I'm not going to pay any money to watch a race I'm going to watch one time. Like, I'm just not. If it's on Flow, I'll watch it. If it's not, I'm not going to watch it.
yeah, exactly. Flow or Dirt Vision, you know, it's just how it works.
So getting back on track and us stopping making excuses. Did anyone else have any thoughts on that Bell Thorson Bernal battle? Because to me, that was like the race of the week.
I just think it's awesome that Thorson just seems to always rise to the occasion, you know, like whenever he races against these badass guys, I think he kind of lives for those moments. And whenever he actually, you know, whenever he comes through at the Chili Bowl and stuff like that, I like seeing it as a guy, you know, you can just tell that he's got passion for the sport, whether you like him or don't like him. I love watching how he comes through in the clutch most times.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like Bell kind of gave it away because he wasn't going for the lock-in. He was going for the win. I feel like if he goes for the lock-in, Bell still runs second and maybe even wins that prelim. That's what I think. Like I think he made a lot of wrong decisions down the stretch that, you know, obviously it put him out in that outside lane, and Bernal got by him as well. But I think, you know, Bell kind of, I'm not going to say Bell had the best car, but I think you could see rust on Bell not racing for, I don't even know, how many years has it been? Is it 2-3 years at least? Maybe more? But like, and I know he told you he didn't feel rusty, but that's the stuff where I felt like he was. You know, and obviously doesn't mean he sucks by any means, but I felt like normal Bell in that situation just gets it done. You know what I'm saying? But being that he was a little rusty made the race really badass, to be honest.
Yeah, I talked to him a couple times. I talked to him just before the Race of Champions. He was very nervous before the Race of Champions. He felt like they were way off. He was very happy after the Race of Champions. He was very happy, but he still wasn't sure. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think he still wasn't positive that he had everyone covered. And then I think that's the last time I had a talk with him about how he was in the car. The one thing he did say is he said he didn't feel rusty. He said when he got in the car at DuQuoin, he said the very first lap he turned was the fastest lap anyone turned all night at DuQuoin. But maybe decisions inside the car and instincts, maybe that is rust. I'm not sure. You guys know better than I do.
Well, he also didn't have a bunch of really good race cars at DuQuoin like he had at Chili Bowl either.
It was surprising how dominant he was at the Race of Champions, though, and then that he didn't come out and kind of dominate his prelim night. I think everybody was kind of expecting that.
Well, I don't think like in the Race of Champions, he didn't really get put in racing situations. You know,
Sure.
he
just was.
You know, and then I
fast.
think you know, you guys know this. Like, I had an argument with one of my crew guys yesterday. It was like, you could throw out the top 15 in qualifying at an outlaw show or a high limit show, and then put a guy that would be 15th quick and put him on the pole of a track, and think about how easy it is for a guy to manage on the front row of one of these races nowadays. Everybody's so competitive. You know, I'm not saying they're going to win, but like think about it. I mean, it's just like Shane said earlier, like, well, you usually have to start 7th or 8th in a prelim. It's hard to get there. And the reason is because everybody else is pretty good. You put them out there, most guys can pound the curb for 30 laps or, do what they got to do. I think you get guys in racing situations and race management, and I think that's where you see the differences.
Yeah, the old man racetrack is. I laugh when you say that because, like me, if we go to Tulare, I want it to be 16 seconds.
Yeah.
I just everywhere I go, if it's not like that, I feel like it's so hard to pass guys now because, everyone has that pace of like ripping around the top or whatever. Like it really has to slow down to get racing.
Yeah, we deal with that way too much in California. It's just never lift, hammer the curb as long as you can until the left rear takes rubber, and then we all follow each other.
Well, that's a
Like I love give me a 3 foot tall curb. I love it. That's great, but slow it down to where we have to actually think about what we're doing rather than just hammer it.
yeah, that's actually an unpopular take I have. Like I see a lot of fans saying they want like these big invert races, and it's like, yeah, over time, you like look at who's number 24th on our list, whoever that is. You put him on the front row of the heat, he's not losing. He's winning.
No.
Like there's not the passes people think there are. Like they've gotten very fortunate. Eldora was racy when they do inverts. Huset's always going to be racing. But if you took that format and you like inverted like 16 or 24 guys and you took it all over the country, that is not going to work like people think.
Yeah, you see it at Chili Bowl even. Like it used to be like when I first started running Chili Bowl, it used to be you'd get 2 or 3 cars that make the Saturday show that the equipment has no business being in the show, but they'd have Justin Grant running, some older, I don't want to call it a box, but it was a box. Justin Grant would put that thing in. T-Mez would put that thing in. Like you're not seeing that now. Like there's only top notch equipment and only top notch drivers that make the show. And you're just like, it's not the old days where there's such a difference in ability of drivers and equipment. It's just it's a whole different world.
Well, that's actually a question I wanted to ask because you were talking earlier about how, you can kind of get weaker heats. My take, like Sam knows, I used to have another unpopular take that probably 5-6 years ago, the Chili Bowl wasn't hard. And I don't mean it was easy to win. I mean, the heats would be the guys in the heats. You wouldn't get more than 2 good guys in a heat. And they were getting out. Like, it didn't matter where they started. They were going to get there. But I feel like what's happened now is those guys that were weaker keep coming back. And now I feel like they've stepped up more to where guys that you used to pass in like a corner sometimes take like 2 laps now, and you're starting to see more guys get in trouble. At least that's something I saw on the outside looking in. I don't know if you feel that way.
I would agree, but it kind of gets like I would agree overall everybody's stuff's getting better, but they added that extra prelim night, and now that waters it down even more. So where the qualifiers, yes, I can see that. Like if you're starting 6th in a qualifier, there's chances are those 5 in front of you are all studs. But the heat race level with 5 prelim nights, it's a lot of times it's just like, let's just get through this and let's not tear our stuff up. Like where it used to be, you kind of had to hustle a little bit. But if they would go back to 4 prelim nights right now with the talent we have in the building, the heats would be tough.
Okay, so we'll move on to the Friday night. And there was a lot of drama on Friday night. We're going to let Shane avoid talking about the one period. The first moment of drama, and Shane, you can hit your mute button here. The first moment of drama, and I know Sam feels pretty strong about this one, is Ricky Stenhouse and Logan Seavey after the heat races. What were your guys' thoughts on it?
I'm ready to hear Sam go after it.
Me too.
Well, I just, like a lot of okay, I'll give you an instance this year. Like we were at a race and a similar thing happened where a guy literally run over a guy right in the side of the cockpit, full throttle. Same kind of thing Ricky did. And ASCS World Racing Group suspended this guy for a year. Okay. Well, not only did we not do anything to this guy for running straight through CV, like it was more blatant than what the penalty that with this guy, like it was more blatant. And I don't care if this guy is a NASCAR driver. I don't care, what his stature is. Man, it's like this to me. And I explained this when the guy in ASCS got penalized. I explained it to the guy myself. I said, man, 10 years ago when I was younger, I probably wouldn't even have looked at it and worried about it. Like, I'd just blown it off. But I have a wife. I have 3 kids. And, like, to me, what we do is dangerous enough. Like, we know what we're doing. Like, it is what it is. But, like, when you go to that extreme, like, I don't know, like, how we can just let that go as an officiating group. Like, I don't know, because Cody Cordell is part of that deal now. So I would assume that, I know Matt Ward's involved as well too, but I just don't know how we let that go. And there's no penalty. There's no nothing. I mean, he didn't get disqualified from the heat race. He got to run the qualifier like nothing, or I'm sorry, that was the qualifier. He got his full points, got everything. And then the feature, he lines up. There's no big deal. And I don't understand. We had 0 penalty. We didn't have anything, and even in the interview after, it's not even like he acted like he didn't try to do it. He totally acted like he tried to do it. I don't know, like, and honestly, to me too, I don't know how you could be that weak-minded as a racer at the level that he races at, to not overcome something like that. That really does bother me. Really does.
Okay. Yeah, the issue I had with it is the precedence you're setting. The next guy, it's going to happen again. Someone is going to run someone over again after the race, and they are going to boot that guy. Like, let's face it, it was because he's Ricky Stenhouse that he kept racing. And that guy's going to come rip their heads off, and he's going to be right to rip their heads off. And I just think you set a dangerous precedence. I don't know what JJ, Dom, I don't know what you guys think. Shane's not allowed to talk. We're not letting him talk. We're not letting him say anything.
I just think you just can't use your car as a weapon. I mean, that's just point blank what it is. I know he was trying to hook his bumper or whatever, like what happened at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what it looked like. What happened is he drove right into the cockpit of his car and tipped himself over. And it's just, I mean, I don't really care about the look or anything. I mean, I do. I think all that, what you guys are saying is right, but you just can't use your car as a weapon. That's like rule number 1.
Yeah. Like for me, I guess I didn't really understand the precedent for it. Like Logan, he slid him pretty hard, but he didn't just come all the way up and like boot him out of the way. Like there was very minimal contact. There was nothing previously that had gone on. Like I felt like it was a pretty isolated incident going for an extra spot. And then like to be that upset about it, like I just couldn't imagine. Like, I don't know, like it just blows my mind. Now, if these two guys, they had a history and they're wailing off each other and stuff, I could see him, beating on the guy a little bit after the race. But like, I mean, to me, he like speared him basically. I mean, that's just that's dangerous, and the biggest fear that I have ever had is hurting a competitor. I mean, there's been a million times I've wanted to, crash guys like Shane at Petaluma or whatever. But like, I mean, genuinely, what's kept me from ever doing it is the fear of hurting somebody. And like, I was unfortunately there the night that Jason Johnson lost his life. I was unfortunately very close to the situation when Greg Hodnett passed away. And like, I look at those scenarios and like growing up with my dad, like there were a lot of people that passed away. I always knew that race cars aren't a toy. And, at the end of the day, the main expense is like, you could cost somebody their life. I could never imagine, being so upset that like I have to run through a guy like that. Like I would want to get out and fight about it or yell and scream about it. I mean, that's way safer. And I think, obviously I've gotten a lot older now and, I'm a lot more mellow than what I used to be, but it's like, dude, you're going to possibly hurt or kill somebody over one spot in a qualifier. Like that's ridiculous.
I do have firsthand experience on that one with Dom there. Yeah, like I was the first guy. This was the first time I'd ever been crashed, and then had the guy come try to fight me. Like I was actually very confused about that one. But
That's so funny. Anytime I tell the story,
Yeah.
I'm like, Shane walks halfway across the track and he's almost to Dom's car. And Dom just gets out of his car and starts yelling at him.
I don't even think I went. I don't even think I really went anywhere. You came to me.
Yeah.
I was like, I wasn't even going to come say nothing. You came to me and you were ready to rumble.
I was so mad. Well,
so
but
funny.
and just the
Starts
backstory.
naming tracks.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, I even asked him. I was like, he started naming all this stuff that had happened in the past, and I'll give you credit. You have a great memory because you're
He's an
coming up with
elephant.
some stuff. And I was like, holy shit, I forgot my yearbook at home. I don't have any of this stuff.
You know, honestly, like the biggest part of the whole thing was like it, and I will say this until I'm blue in the face because it's true. Like I did not intend to like put you in the fence. Like I just kept thinking I'm gonna just not give him any room. He's gonna lift, and I'm gonna win this race. And then it's like, oh, like we're gonna crash now. And then off you go. And then I got disqualified and stuff. And I'm like, I was revved up. And then like when I got back, I'm like, you know what? I don't really care right or wrong. Like that was an absolutely terrible situation. And now I'm pissed off about the whole thing even more. That was the worst. Honestly, that was so bad.
It was. Hey, we'll never forget it though.
Honestly, I mean, I hate that I crashed a race car from it, but like, I love that it happened now because it's like two guys that you don't see run into anybody, and it was like just a hatred. Like I was so mad, and like things were just bad for so long. It was cool, but we didn't run each other over yellow though, so like we're definitely better than Ricky.
That's true. That's true.
No, you just did it at a way higher speed.
Yeah, exactly. Much more safe.
Yeah, and to confirm, I don't even think CB touched Ricky. He run him up the hill, but like where the 3 and 4 passes, yeah, okay, he ran him up the hill, whatever. You know, you got a decision where you can hit the brake and drive back underneath, and Ricky chose not to do that, and he stayed like 4 and a fluff, but he didn't run into the wall. He didn't hit him with the right rear. Like that Corbin Ruschenberg kid, he run over enough to, I mean, hey, what are you doing?
What's up, little dude?
Go get your mom. Go get your mom. So anyway, that Corbin Ruschenberg kid, like, I would have been curious to see what would have happened if Corbin Ruschenberg ran into Stenhouse. Like, what would have been that deal there? Because, like, that was, like, and Buddy, you know what? Buddy didn't even get mad. Didn't even say nothing negative on the, you know, like, and he had plenty of opportunity to. Flo was setting him up for it. Like, okay, what do you think?
That's because Buddy thought it was David Gravel in the car.
When Buddy was getting interviewed, he literally at the very end of it, he's like, you know, I just got crashed. You could see he felt bad. He's like, and he like made this face like that was his shit. That's like as hardcore as Buddy talks right there. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Guy kind of got into me. And then he went out and beat him in the feature still. It was pretty badass, really. Buddy was impressive that night.
So that's just a little bit of the drama we had that night. We also had the number 1 and 2 cars get together in that feature when Gavin Miller got into the back of Ryan Timms. I mean, I've been through this situation before. Has anyone else been through this situation before where teammates have gotten together? You've been one of those teammates? Does anyone have that history?
I spun a guy out just like that.
Same.
About 2 laps after I blew my brother off the racetrack in Hanford. I slid my brother. He was running the 83 car, and like I kept doing like the check-up thing, and finally I'm like, I gotta go. Blew it off there, and he tried to squeak around, hit him off the track. And then the next lap, we went buried into 3, and the guy leading the race kind of like dropped down, and I hit the brakes, and they just went right to the floor. And I turned right and barely clipped him and spun him out, blew it off the racetrack. I remember thinking I was such an idiot. So I feel some pain for the kid, but like at the end of the day, he had plenty of room. You know, his brakes worked, you know, everything worked. He had plenty of room and time to like, hey, maybe I have to chill out.
Dude, I believe, I mean, watching the race, and this is exact situation has happened to me. I got to racing with a guy side by side, and I was racing so hard out the right side of my car and so narrow-minded and idiotic that I basically just drove into the guy. Like the guy in front of me backed his corner up a little bit, and I was so worried about beating the other guy into the corner. That's what it looked like. He was just racing the shit out of the guy for second. He didn't, you know, Buddy was running the bottom every time. I just think that he was so worried about racing the other guy that he just drove into the side, just like straight up honest mistake, but one that definitely looks horrible.
So then the next thing we have coming up, Shane, you were kind of sort of maybe a little involved in that, quasi maybe. J-Mac and Pittman had their little deal in turn 2 that resulted in a middle finger that McDougall probably doesn't regret that, but probably regrets. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously my car. You know, he's gonna think, you know, your own car did no wrong. I guess, you know, you're pulling for your guy. But I mean, Darren really just kind of let that thing go across like about as slow and as like easy and as predictable as possible. And I just don't think really Jason wanted to lift or wanted to try and live for another lap, and he just kind of stuck her out there, and then he got all mad and got out of the car and kind of ruined the rest of his race. So like, I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm going to say that with it being my guy, but I thought Darren really didn't do anything wrong. He told me, he just thought, you know, he left the lane for long enough to where he wasn't there anymore. So he figured, oh, I might as well not just sit in the slick. I might as well let this thing continue to get going and try and get going. This is Chili Bowl. We're not messing around here. So I think he gave him plenty of time and opportunity. And it wasn't really a slider. It was just that he was kind of lane changing. It wasn't like he bombed it in from 10 car lengths back and slid across and wheeled the guy. It's just hard racing. And I think J-Mac just needed to kind of try to live another lap.
Yeah, I that's the way I look at it too. Like he, you know, like I always feel like the short slides where guys don't know it's coming. But like I feel like when you do something like that and he sees you coming across, well, now he has the decision to make the move. And whether he decides to try to come back underneath you, he needs to make that decision. Or if he wants to check up and run behind you, that's what I think. I mean, it looks because these angles they give you from flow and everything, like it looks in the heat of the moment, it looks really bad. But I feel the same way Shane does. I felt like Pittman did give him a lot of time. And if you can't, like, I don't know why you would put yourself in that position if you were J-Mac, because now you do have the decision. Man, you're running top 5 at Chili Bowl prelim. Like, let's make a smart decision and finish in the top 5 rather than not at all.
Yeah, I thought it was a bonehead move. Like, the guy's, like, you see him, you saw him, you're seeing him, the gap's going like this. Fuck, I don't know, man. Left pedal.
I honestly got on Darren. I was like, dude, we need to get across quicker. We need to get going here. Like he really should have got across quicker, but he got across so slow that like he had plenty of time. And it just miscalculation, I think, over there.
So how did you and Darren end up getting together? And can you take us through Darren's night other than that one moment?
Yeah, Darren, I love working with Darren. He's a guy I've always looked up to. Yeah, we've been running the last few years together, and he does a good job for us. Things just didn't quite go exactly according to plan again this year. But he helps make our program a lot better. He's real analytical with things and really gets me thinking about stuff. He doesn't just like, there isn't a time he'll ever come off the track and say the car's good. Like he'll come off and nitpick things, and like that's helpful to me to know kind of what to work on. I'm like a lot of the time I'm the opposite. I'll come off and just think, like with myself driving, I'll be like, man, I think car's good. I just need to work on, you know, my driving and my angles and my throttle response. And like I take too much of it and put it on myself to where like working with him is good. It's definitely helped our program a ton.
And then how'd your night go with him?
It was going really well there. It ended up good. He ended up 4th. He lost the podium spot there, like coming to the checkered to Sunshine, which I think screwed him for Saturday. It took him off the front row, and those B mains, it's tough. It put him running or having to start 4th in the B. And the bottom kind of got going, and he didn't get down across quick enough. And next thing you know, we're running 8th, and then he started having to press to try and make things back up to get back into that top 7, and just didn't quite get the job done. And I thought he had really good speed, a car capable of running 3rd for sure on his prelim night, and that would have changed everything for Saturday. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard to sit here and nitpick his driving and stuff. Obviously, he's done way more than I'll ever do. But yeah, he did a good job. It just didn't quite work out for him on Saturday.
So now we're off to Saturday, And you guys know I'm a big what if guy, or if this would have broke a little different, this might have happened. If Dason personally doesn't run out of fuel, does he win in the scramble? Does he win the Chili Bowl?
I think so.
He definitely wins the pole shuffle. I'll tell you that. Like once you get going in those things, I think it's been proven now 2 years in a row. You get those SB3 right rears hot, and then get in a rhythm. And he was hammering it up above the curb, and nobody was just going to come on the track cold and beat him doing that. It's just not going to happen. So luckily, he ran out of fuel while our car was on the track, which was pretty cool. It gave Landon a shot at the front row. Because I don't even think we were within a half a second of the guy. Like he was moving up there. So he definitely was going to win the pole shuffle if he didn't run out of fuel. And then I don't know, you just can't count out Kyle. He'll always try and make something happen, but there's a really good chance that Dason would, if he did get out front, Kyle might have balled that thing up trying. So you just never know. It's all a what if, but yeah, I mean, Dason was the class of the field there in that pole shuffle, but definitely something needs to change there. It's, I think Hank Davis did it last year, made a run through. If you're one of those first cars on the track and you can get yourself going and get that tire hot, it's just so huge in this deal. And, I just think it kind of is tough for the newcomer coming on the track, trying to do anything against a guy like that.
I feel like a bracket style tournament.
Yeah. I feel like everyone agrees the 4-car shuffle where you eliminate 2 is the way to go.
Yeah, I did that a few years back. It was awesome. That's great. It's actually entertaining for the fans, and I just don't understand the whole.
Yeah, like even just little things to nitpick it. Like you've got to pick a guy to watch. You can't even watch like they're way there on the track. You're not watching both guys. You're having to pick a guy. So
that's one thing where I didn't really think that was quite right, because the guy with the faster time, even though he couldn't continue, in my opinion, should have earned the front row. I don't know, like when
I think Shane disagrees.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, it worked out. It worked out good for him, but when it goes down to like when it's an advancing format and he laid down a faster time, it's not like his second and third. It's not an average or anything. Like I don't understand how he doesn't just get the front row. I mean, it would have made a show, and I don't think you want to go out and send Kyle out for 2 laps by himself. But I don't know. It didn't seem completely right the way that happened, honestly.
Yeah, and Sam and I were talking. We were texting each other while it was happening. If you guys are the officials, do you let him refuel?
Nope.
Like I realize you tell him that, but it's like,
but I put him on.
Is anyone also arrogant enough to think they're driving by 9 guys? But I could see either side.
As a guy who had a car who drew the 8 and then myself the 7, I know for sure my 2 cars had enough fuel to get through, because after watching last year, it would be pretty dang. I mean, I'm sure Chad and those guys thought about it or whatever, but after watching last year, you know that if you get on a run, it's tough to get beat. So you have to have enough fuel. Like I'm sure looking back, they won't make that mistake again, but I know for sure my car's had enough.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I know when other times they've done some stuff like this kind of format type deal and some other deals, they have a deal. If you go 4 rounds, you get to refuel, and that's all you get to do. Like, I've seen that before. I don't even know where they do it at. I think they did it Knoxville, maybe, Oski, stuff like that. But, I mean, if they're not going to do – like, I know the reason they got away from – racing the pole shuffle deal was because they didn't want to potentially tear up a car before the A or something like that, and I get that. But
did you watch those guys go around there? They were trying to.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like,
I just felt like the biggest. I wasn't trying to wreck something. So
I got like my best photos in time trials.
Yeah,
but that's what I was saying.
I've one in the pole shuffle before, and I didn't want to do that again.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If they're going to do that, you might as well just race them, and I think it would be better for the fans anyway.
I think it's such a great what if with Pursley, because it is Kyle Larson that was chasing him. I feel like on one hand, Shane's absolutely right. Larson would have wadded up trying to get him. But Larson's also that guy that watches a guy run a track for 10 laps and goes, okay, I'm going to do this now. And then he smokes you. So I do think it's a great what if, just because it's Kyle Larson running second.
I mean, on the same deal, it's kind of like at the end of the race, if he gets by if Pursley gets by him there, it's like, does he actually win the race, or does Larson just do some more spectacular, phenomenal shit and win a barn burner?
I feel like Pursley would have won the race except for the yellow. Like if Pursley could have run the last couple laps, he wins. If you give Larson a restart, God, I don't know. I don't know what you guys think.
You can't bet against him.
Can't bet against him.
So then, what? Anyone can go here. Shane, take us. We'll start with Shane. Take us through your 97 cars that were in the A main.
Yeah, I don't know. We all ended up racing it right there against or with each other right there at the end. I mean, it was pretty cool. Landon, I thought there for middle part of the race, he got going on running the slider line across, and he was running. He was running away from me, and I thought when he had got by Pursley and he was kind of tracking Kyle down, and I kind of thought he was gonna win. I mean, he was doing an awesome job, and then I chopped Ryan a couple different times. He was about ready to drive by me. So like my cars were all around me the whole race, and it was a really weird feeling, but it was good. I mean, it showed that our cars were fast, but yeah, it was a kind of a quick 40 laps. It felt like it went by quick. But I mean, it's cool to have us all kind of in the picture at the end. That's kind of what our game plan was going in, was let's make sure we're there at the end, and we all kind of were. So it was cool, but we almost all three crashed each other down the backstretch coming to checkered. So luckily we came out of there okay.
How would that have gone over?
Oh, it wouldn't have been good. I saw Ryan climb Landon's left rear from like out my left window, and I saw like the bottom of our car, and I'm like, oh no, he's flipping. I thought we were going yellow here and gonna have another green and white checkered, but luckily he kept it going. But yeah, that would not have been fun. I would not have been happy with having to rebuild some midgets over the year. They all came back in one piece, and so that way they can sit and I can check on them again next December.
Okay, guys. So give me your thoughts. What do you guys think about the 40 lapper?
Honestly, I was. I think I texted in the group chat before. I'm like, I think that they might have overdone it. I'm like, I think it might be too wet to start, and it might not get wide until the last 10 laps. And I was completely wrong. Like within 5 laps, it was really racy. I wish for sure it was 55. I think that the tire prep situation had to have definitely helped the racetrack, because we never saw rubber in the turkey, or not turkey night, the shootout. Never saw rubber at the Chili Bowl. I mean, both weeks the racing was phenomenal. And I guarantee you they're going to go back to 55 next year. I mean, they proved this year they can handle it. I think the race would have been even better, because the curb was treacherous. Like it was starting to get even more sketchy off of 4. And, the only thing that I don't like when it ramps up on the wall like that, like it's fun as to drive, and I like it at Tulare. It's kind of how it's got to be. But if there's a way that they could almost grade that off a little bit before and get it to where it gets a little more like 90 degrees instead of 45, to where you can't just beat off of it, I think it'd be a little bit better for the racing, because then the top would get a little bit more treacherous, and the bottom is slowed down. So you can really start seeing guys move around the racetrack. I think when it gets, a little rampy, it's almost, too, forgiving when you can kind of ramp it and go.
Anyone else have any thoughts before we get to Bannergate?
Yeah, I honestly thought if it does go 55, you could tell the bottom was actually starting to, the top slowing down because it is getting more treacherous later in the race. So the bottom's actually be coming into play. And I feel like that would have changed the whole dynamic of the race. 15 more laps. I think a guy like Shane probably gets right in the mix, and then maybe catches Larson and Pursley off guard, and maybe catches them late. I think if it plays out like that, it's a hell of a lot better race.
Yeah, like Shane, I'm going off memory because I was taking photos in 2, but I remember you were starting to really come on the bottom, were you not? And I'm guessing that's where Ryan was too.
Yeah, Ryan said he was kind of just following me around there for a while, but late on, especially on restarts, I was able to kind of get the bottom creeping, and I did feel like the top was starting to get a little bit more and more technical. But yeah, another 15 laps would have been cool to see if it did slow down a little bit more and just open that bottom up to making like a legitimate run, even after guys got their momentum up and we're a few laps into a run. And like obviously the track not being able to take or not taking rubber at all like it did this year is pretty cool. And like even if it would have started to just touch like tiny spots, a little bit of rubber or grip on the bottom or middle or something late in the race, I think that's fine. Nobody complains about a little bit of rubber here and there in spots at late in a race, because it can create different lanes that guys can find and create a really cool ending to a race. But it would have, I mean, they could have gone probably another 30 laps and it wouldn't have gotten to where it was full freight train rubber. So I think they did a great job with the track all week, and whether that comes to tire doping or what, I mean, it was definitely cool to be a part of.
The biggest thing I saw, and I texted Dom when he made that comment, was I feel like the A main track's been a lot softer when they put you guys out on it the last few years, and this year it was a lot harder, and that helped it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say so. I think maybe, I don't know if it was by design or not, but I felt like they were just more confident in allowing it to start off slicker, because they didn't have any evidence of like our tires from the first 5 nights were not even hardly touched. Like just,
Yeah, but that was your softener, right?
yeah, yeah, special prep. But no, I mean, we ran multiple tires the same on like multiple cars throughout the week. Like it was so easy on tires. It like didn't even make any sense to be bolting new ones on. So that was huge. So I think they were able to start it a little bit slicker. Like Landon jumped to the top like lap 2 or something from the front row and was able to kind of make speed. And I did the same and kind of got going. Usually it takes 15 laps for anybody to even think about getting off the bottom.
So obviously Bannergate did a ton. JJ, I know you had feelings on it, so we'll start with you. What were your thoughts?
Don't put the banner on the racing surface. That's probably the easiest lesson to learn from all of it. I mean, I hated how it went. I don't really know there's no way to make it any other way. I think that their ruling or whatever, in my opinion, was right. You can't put Kyle. I mean, putting Kyle all the way to the back would be tough right there in that situation. I don't really think that would be right necessarily. Just kind of a tough situation with a deal for Pursley. I mean, just a terrible situation for him to finally get the lead and be as flawless as he was in such a, I mean, not flawless, but make so few mistakes to be able to run with Kyle like that. And to have Kyle make a mistake and get by him and then have it negated. But like I said, he passed him in turn 1 and 2. The yellow came out right then and there. I don't know how they call it any differently. I don't really see any problem with what they did besides put the banner on the track where it could get ripped down.
I thought maybe you could blend Larson in second, but I certainly had no issue with what they did.
I wouldn't have hated that.
I will say the banner was on the track for quite a few laps. I ran it over multiple times.
Right. He finished it off.
That's the problem, right? It's been out there, so now it looks like it's this big Larson was going to lose, so now we put out the yellow. And
nah, it just is just unfortunate timing, it seemed to me like. And I was rooting for Pursley, to be honest with you. I think most people were. It's been a pretty badass story. But, yeah, just a bad deal.
Yeah, I mean, say they throw the caution 3 or 4 laps before. Well, Pursley's in second, Larson's in the lead. Larson's going to restart and drive away.
Exactly.
Open track. And then where they threw it when they did, like, they said they were doing split scoring this time. Was that true? They were doing split scoring this year?
I felt like they did a lot of times, but then there was times where it's like, that's not split scoring.
Well, that's what they said, they were doing split scoring. So, like, if you're doing split scoring at that particular time, you have to determine where that caution came out because it's a leader plus 1. Well, when did the caution come out? Did it come out when Larson hasn't crossed the finish line, or was it after? You see what I'm saying? Like if they were doing split scoring, if it came out after he crossed the finish line, he should restart in second.
So it's fair to say we all pretty much agree the right thing was done. Congratulations, Larson. He's still really freaking good. The other issue that I think people want us to talk about that was a huge deal in the pits, and I don't know who wants to touch this first, but 2 guys got caught with doped up tires. I think we're all on the same page here. I think the fans heard it and were like, oh, that's terrible for Clinton. I think all of us and pretty much every race team in the building was like, no, actually what doping tires is. Who wants to touch this first?
Go, JJ. Go. This is all you.
This is a Dominic topic.
All right, I'll go. Dude, at first I was like full panic mode. I'm like, bro, I wash my with Simple Green. Am I? And then it's like, oh no, we're wet grinding. It's like, hang on a second. Like for people that don't know, we're sudsing the out of this thing up with Simple Green, and then we're grinding it, sudsing it, grinding it to bring the tire back to life. Is like, what you're doing. But have you ever touched it? Have you ever
wrapping it? And wrapping it.
Have you ever touched a tire after you've Simple Greened it and then ground it and then Simple Greened it again? Dude, I'm telling you, we used to do that with the micro sprints all the time because and it was the same thing. You had a durometer rule. So it was like, hey, as long as it durometers here, you're good. So we'd get tires that were, years old and we're like, hey, we're going to run them. That's what you would do. So to me, I mean, it definitely makes the tire softer. It definitely gives you more grip. I don't like it. I like that they owned it, but I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, you were kind of, you accomplished the mission that you were going after.
Yeah, I don't know if any.
Yeah, I will say I was the same way. I was definitely like nervous when I first heard it. I didn't hear the full story yet of what Clinton.
Yeah, and you actually did all your tires with Simple Green, didn't you say all that?
Well, we do wash our tires with Simple Green.
There's and you've never failed a test, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna fail a test. Just
you wash
Simple
it off.
Green.
I mean, I was off, and like before this, you guys explained to me what wet grinding even is. Like I'm a little embarrassed to be that oblivious to this deal, but I had never heard of anybody even doing that. Then to be wrapping them, I mean, I'm not trying to, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. What are we doing with spending all that time if we're not trying to make an advantage? It doesn't, you're not, like, nobody cares if their tires are that clean.
Now, the other thing I thought was really cheese dick was when they did the video, they know who both guys were that got popped. And to not say that, oh, and by the way, the other guy that got popped was your brother-in-law that you race your sprint car with. I thought that was pretty questionable not to mention that. If it's because he hasn't been told yet, maybe don't make the video before he's been told. That's when everyone heard that it's the brother-in-law and they race on the same team together, and you didn't mention that, but you did know who got popped. I think that was a terrible look. But I think the biggest thing I want fans to understand from this is, like, wet grinding your tires is like cheating. Like, there was actually, no one knows it, like all us racers know it, but there was a controversy with a driver wet grinding them at 360 Nationals this year, and everyone was freaking pissed about it. The guy did it right in front of everyone, and if someone made a video of it, like, it is an issue, and it is frowned on. Like, they made it sound like, oh, everybody does it. It's like, no, not everybody does it.
Well, that was a problem in the video. Like Cody goes, well, wet grinding's become a popular thing. No, wet grinding is not a popular thing.
No, nobody does that.
Wet grinding is cheating. Bottom line, doesn't matter. Wet grinding is fucking cheating. If you're spraying your tire with Simple Green or whatever the it is and you're wet grinding it, you're a cheating. It doesn't matter. Like, and for these people to come on here and act like, oh, I didn't know. Bull, dude. Like, we're not dumb. Any of these top racers, anybody in that building knows. You don't, oh, well, I didn't know. I was just cleaning my tires with Simple Green. Well, if you were just cleaning them with Simple Green, then clean them with Simple Green and rinse them the off. You didn't rinse them off. You kept spraying them and grinding them, and then you wrapped them. Why the you wrap them? You want to hold the Simple Green in the tire? That's called tire doping. So
they got them so clean that they had to wrap them. So when they got to Chili Bowl and they rolled their car out, it looked cool.
Like, to play that video, honestly,
it did look cool.
for all racers and people that are affiliated with teams, you just made yourself look stupider. Number one, you might, you're going to have those fans like, oh, I feel so sorry for them. They didn't know. Well, fans, they knew, okay? And they did it to themselves. And you want to call me an ass, you can. I don't really care, but I'm just spitting the facts. They knew what they were doing when they did it.
And I would say
that's one thing that I didn't understand on it is, like, because I didn't watch the video first, and then I watched it back, and I'm like, dude, that's like the first thing you learn. Like you're washing your micro sprint tires and you're like, wow, these things got way grippier. Like, what is this? That's the first thing you do. And I don't know. Like I felt like playing naive there wasn't the move for sure.
No, not at all.
But it worked with the fans. It worked great with the fans.
That's what they were going after.
It was like he played naive, but also took it on the chin and didn't try to fight it at all, because I feel like he knew what he was doing. I mean, they all knew what they like. Those guys know what they're doing by it, and I think just accepting that we're not racing and moving forward with his work day or whatever is about the best way. Like Clinton himself could have handled. I mean, the interview I could have done without the interview, but like when he came back into the booth and he was talking to the guys, he's like, "Man, you guys are talking like I died, man. I'm still here." Like, I feel like just one of the, he's looking for an advantage and he got caught type of deal. And he just kind of like, I feel like if he didn't think he did anything wrong, he wouldn't have been so forthcoming with being kicked out of the event.
And to his credit, Jimmy May who was the car owner of Schoenberg, was like, "Yep, I did it. I doped fourth. I had 4 dope tires from last year. I guess 1 got in. Yeah, you're right. You got me."
So who was the guy doping him at the facility?
Okay, well, that's the other thing we got to get into. And if you're on Johnny Wingo, you're going to see 2 photos of a person Snapchatting, bragging that they are doping the tires of the 2019 that Hank Davis and Tim Buckwalter drove. I can tell you, it was a driver in the A main that took the screenshots, and took it to the officials because he was freaking mad. The rumor at the Chili Bowl is that team all of a sudden went and bought 20 tires. That is not fact. Everyone's just saying that, and that's a huge rumor. The other thing they can say is, "Oh, that's just an old snap. That didn't happen today." So it's like, you don't have them red-handed. It looks like you have them red-handed. But man, if you're trying to prove that, hey, these guys did it tonight, you can't really do it. But clearly at some point they were around. And other drivers that had very good preliminary nights were actually photographed going in and out of the tent. So that was pretty depressing too. There's other drivers, and like I say, I don't know that they were, so I can't accuse them, but there are other drivers that ran top 5 on their prelim night that we're seeing going in and out of the tent.
Well, and another thing is, like, my thing is, whoever was Snapchatting it, if you don't want something to get out, don't Snapchat it.
I guarantee you that.
What are you thinking?
I guarantee you that was like some 17-year-old kid just thinking he was cool as shit.
Right. Like, you go post it on your story and now everyone sees it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he's that crew guy that wants everybody to know that he knows something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Which, speaking as a crew guy, is every crew guy.
So, Shane, when they were taking tire samples, like, did they do them after the heats? Did they do them after qualifiers? Like, how many cars did they do?
Well, so I don't know. So every time, so like we actually went on a pretty nice little stretch there where, like, from my heat race qualifier feature and then Landon's heat race qualifier feature, we won like 6 out of 7 events or whatever, and ran second in my prelim. And so like every time we came off the track, it seemed like we had to bring our groover over there and take samples. How many of those samples get sent to the lab?
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure, but I know, talking with Cody after one of the nights, we got randomly selected by like, I think a tire sample from like Landon's heat race or something got randomly selected and got sent off as one of the other ones that got sent off, other than the guys who ran top 3. So we had like multiple samples of ours get sent off, but it was every time you won something, and maybe if you ran second in something, and then the top 5
right.
for each prelim night. I give them credit. They got us all lined up. We went straight from the infield, went through the center aisle of like right down Broadway in the middle of the deal. And, only 2 crew members allowed by each car. They actually kicked me out at one point. I'm like, I'm trying to go help you take my box out. And then one of the guys was yelling at me and pushed me out. And so like, they were taking it very serious. They took our boxes and they took our samples from each tire, and multiple samples. And, I mean, they were doing it. It's that I appreciated that for sure, because like, I honestly do think it made a difference in the racetrack. I mean, this is the first year it hasn't taken rubber, and I don't even know how long. So I don't know if they have different dirt or what else could have been different. But if they truly did crack down and people truly actually stopped doing it, then I mean, kudos to them. I'll give them credit.
Yeah, I applaud them. I think it's badass that they did what they did, and like it's cool to see people take the tech seriously, because there's so many places we go race throughout the years where, okay, these are the rules, but I mean, you guys know. I mean, how often do you guys get teched at a lot of the races you race at? It's very seldom, and it doesn't matter what series it is. I mean, so I think it's really cool, especially that big of an event that they were doing that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's one thing where I think ASCS gets a bad rap. Like, if you go ASCS, World of Outlaws, High Limit, ASCS, if you run top 3, they're ripping something out of your motor. Like, you are getting something on your motor tech.
I get teched harder running ASCS than I do anything.
Yeah.
Any Outlaw top 3 I've ever ran,
we've been
wherever.
We have something like 35 top 5s with the World of Outlaws, and we've been teched one time. It was randomly at Tulare in 2008.
Yeah, and like, obviously Knoxville's they're always doing the tech pretty well, but as they should. But I'm just glad these guys are doing what they need to do. I think it's badass for the sport to be able to be doing that. It sets a precedent of what it should be.
So I think that's everything we had to talk about. Am I missing anything, fellas?
Yeah, well, you took a picture of this one guy. It definitely wasn't Keith Coons.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. Though, one question I had for you guys, and I'll give this to each of you, and I did have it on the list, so if you don't have your answer, it's on you. What driver's stock rose the most this week at Chili Bowl?
Ryan Bernal.
Yeah, Ryan.
He's moved into 100 on the list.
Yep. Yeah, we need to get him on the list. Yeah, he showed
So
up.
I'll start with you, Shane. I think your driver did. I think Landon Brooks is your guy. Is that fair to say that Landon Brooks is probably the guy that rose the stock the most this week?
Yeah, honestly, between Landon and Ryan, I mean, it's a crapshoot. Obviously, like, I think the people who know racing well enough knew that Landon could wheel. Like, shouldn't be a major surprise to anybody. But yeah, I mean, his stock has to have risen a ton, and then Ryan just kind of got back to his like old school self, and I guess you could say he kind of arose from the PG&E graveyard there, and he got ripping. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool that both of our guys were able to really step up.
How many wing races a year does Ryan actually run?
Man, I don't know. It depends how many Jimmy May will get the car ready for sometimes. But he might have ran 30 or so, maybe, or something.
Okay. See, I wasn't even familiar with that, to be honest.
That could be high.
To be honest, I'll plead ignorance. I thought he raced like 12 to 15 times a year.
Yeah, it's more than that. But when he does, he's good. He was really fast at Trophy Cup, and like I said, he ran top 10 with the Outlaws and the High Limit Series this year, and I mean that ain't easy to do. And I think he only got like maybe max 5 tries at it.
So we'll put him at 104. 104 sound good, Phil?
Give him the old 99 or 100.
Yeah. So Sam, who do you think raised their stock the most this weekend?
I mean, it's no doubt it has to be, it has to be Landon Brooks. I mean, it's not like nobody didn't know he was fast. Like, you don't just go make the King's Royal for no reason. And the little experience that he had going into a race like that, and then to be on the stage that he was on this weekend or this last weekend, and honestly, he performed every time he hit the racetrack. I mean, him starting second in the feature, like, I was like, oh man, I thought he was going to drop back just from inexperience, nothing more than that. Not because speed or whatever, like, but he was up for the challenge, man. And any guy that can go to the Chili Bowl and perform like that, they can race anywhere. I mean, it's obvious that it's proven year after year after year. The guys that win the Chili Bowl, the guys that run good at Chili Bowl, they can race good anywhere.
Dom, who in your opinion raised their stock the most?
I don't know. Victory Fuel probably sold some stuff.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Man, to me, it's Ryan Bernal. There's no question about it. I mean, Ryan, he ran. I don't think he ran 20 races last year, and then roll into Chili Bowl, and have the speed that he had. He really kind of showed what he's been able to do for a long time and has done. It's just he's not racing as often anymore, and it was great to see him kind of cement his speed that he's got.
JJ, do you have a different guy, or do you
Yeah,
agree with these
well,
guys?
I definitely agree with those guys, but just for the sake of having a guy, I would say Dason Pursley, just to be able to race at that level and have speed like Larson. Not very many people can actually run down Larson, and to match him kind of toe to toe the whole race, I thought was really impressive, and it just shows that Pursley's very high level, especially in the midgets right now.
So I think that's all the regular stuff we had. We did prep Shane for this before, and Shane says he is ready to talk some shit. So, okay, Shane, what drives you nuts? What do you want to bitch about?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a lot of stuff that I really like. I guess I do. Sometimes guys call me the grumpy old guy in California that really complains about everything. But I have a couple pet peeves. Number one, and it's really picky and it's really dumb, but it just grinds my gears. But like the time it takes to get cars back going under yellows in sprint car racing is just out of control sometimes. And I'm sure Dom would notice this too in California. But the amount of guys, like, to all the drivers out there, if you've got a push truck behind you and you're faced the wrong direction on the racetrack, don't just make the hard 90 and make the push truck run over your left rear and then come back up and back 10-point turn and get you back going again. It just takes way too long. So that's one of my big things. And then the other thing is kind of one of our guests here, Dom. Take your gloves off in victory lane before you take your helmet off. That's one of my big pet peeves. If you're up standing on top of the wing with no helmet and you still got your gloves on, I can't do it. Like, I don't.
How do you even get your helmet off?
The first thing is take your gloves off, dude. Like,
I promise I'll never do that again.
Oh, it's my biggest pet peeve. I don't even know how you get your helmet off.
I don't either.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, dude. How the f*** do you get your strap off with your
The
gloves
first thing
on?
for me is get them gloves off, and I don't understand. You'll be standing there with your trophy like 10 minutes later with your glove on still.
I do that. You're not the only person that said that. I've had a couple people go, "Why do you keep your gloves on?" I'm like, honestly, I don't even recognize that I do it, because like the first thing I do is clips, and I can pull my deal one handed and get my like strap off, and then glasses come off, helmets off, and then it's like most of the time I'm like talking or something and I end up with my gloves on. But I will make sure. Hopefully, I can win another race for the rest of my life. But yeah. I'll make sure if I do ever win a race again, I'll pull my gloves off.
There you go. That's all I got.
Okay, so I did have another topic I wanted to discuss. And it kind of came out with my Keith Kunz photo, where I put out a photo of Keith Kunz and had 9 million people comment that it wasn't Keith Kunz. Dom was blown away. He commented in there. And it's okay to not know it's Keith Kunz. But when I go through our social media, pretty much any time someone's being an actor, you're usually ending up looking like an idiot. So please, on social media, just don't be an actor. Just be like, I got guys writing me like, "Are you new?" And it's like, I don't want to do the, I worked with the guy, I know what he looks like. I don't want to play that card. Just don't be a dick. Just be like, I don't think it's him. There are so many times where people are just on our social media, and almost every time it's like the wrong take on top of it. So just don't be an actor.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of like the cartoons where like the guy puts glasses and a mustache on and nobody knows who it is. I'm like, that's Keith Kunz. And everyone's like, what? Who? Where? It was funny.
When I saw your post, Daryl, I was like, uh-oh. I like looked at Joanne. I'm like, I think Daryl messed up here. He posted the wrong guy.
Okay. Well,
I had to start doing some research to figure out who were right.
Let's just do some quick deductions. Is anyone else with white hair going to be doing Tanner Carrick's shocks?
Dude, it doesn't look like him, man. It was a trip.
I don't blame anyone for not realizing it was him. I don't blame anyone.
Being a dick while you're
being a dick,
the most American
yeah, it's such a bad look. It's such a bad look. And like I say, okay, if it's not Keith Kunz, what other guy with all white hair on the team would be playing with front shocks? The other guy that plays with front shocks on their cars is bald. Like there's two options. Like
Maybe he was Santa Claus.
Oh god damn.
so yeah, if you're gonna be like that guy that like thinks they're being clever and a dick about it, just save yourself the embarrassment. You look ridiculous, and yeah, just be like, hey, I don't think that's Keith. So we got anything else to bitch about, fellas?
That's all we got.
I don't have anything to bitch about. I thought the Chili Bowl was badass.
I thought it was
really
the best. I thought it was the best all-round chili bowl.
I don't think the feature probably wasn't that good. Like if you're, because I mean, let's face it, they're watching Larson most of the time. They're not panning back. So I don't know. I don't want to see Larson starting on the pole. You know, like we know he's good. Let's start him at least 6th or 8th.
What I will say for the race, like, no, it didn't have all these passes. You guys obviously weren't there. Shane was a little busy. You never felt like Larson had it in the bag. Like when you were live, it was like, no, this is tricky enough that like, and I mean, he had what, 2 almost crashes.
That's what impressed me with Persley is like, you know, when he got signed up for this 13 car, I was really worried that he was going to have not a good season this year. And not out of disrespect for him, but to see him step up to the challenge the way he did this weekend and be able to do some of the shit that Larson was doing, and then sometimes doing it better than Larson was doing. Like, dude, I'm telling you, after this weekend, his confidence has got to be through the roof. And then I see him rolling pretty stout in that 13 now. Just after a weekend like this, his confidence has got to be huge right now.
Well, JJ and I ran 4 Crown, and I think you and I were both blown away by his 4 Crown performance. Is that fair to say, JJ?
Oh, absolutely. He won the first 2, and he was ripping the shit out of the Silver Crown car trying to make it happen. It was very impressive.
But specifically in the midget, he was lights out at Eldora.
Yes.
So I think that's everything. I did want Dom and Shane to fight over Petaluma. That's about the only thing I think we've missed here.
Well, I can tell you right now, I've been fighting for the last 20 minutes to not shit my pants.
It's going to be a photo finish for Dom.
I've been trying to not look like a cokehead. I got my nose running, my throat sore, so no, people, I'm not doing coke, just in case you're wondering.
You're not skinny enough for those.
No. No.
We weren't thinking you were on coke, trust me.
And would you probably say, because of our sponsor, Kaiser Wheels, that's probably why you had the best run, Shane? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that was Kaiser Wheels for the top 5. That was pretty cool.
How are them new balancers?
Pretty nice, I will say. We only got one set, and I can tell you Ryan was very upset that they ended up on my car, not his, for that. He still says that's why I beat him. But yeah, no, they worked great. Yeah, I was a big fan.
And for people that don't know, that's probably the big innovation in our racing right now. Is probably, I believe it was the Williams kid from California came up with the first set that a few Outlaws have been using. Now Wade at Kaiser's come out with a set and drive, like, I don't know if someone wants to explain it to people, but the balancers are probably like the newest thing in sprint car racing right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were one of the guys who got to kind of test them for Wade this week, and we ran them on all of our cars throughout the week, and they held up great. I mean, I will say Chili Bowl is not like the biggest high-speed kind of place where you're going to feel a lot of tire shake anyways, really. Like, would have loved to go around Belleville with them just to see, but yeah, I mean, there was definitely no tire shake going on, and I do like the idea, and yeah, they were flawless, and I mean, obviously our cars had speed all week, so yeah, I was happy with them.
So Dom, what the hell are you doing at Sanders? Come on.
I'm thinking about not shitting my pants at this very moment. So.
he's sitting up really, dude. This is the best posture Dom has ever had on the show. Just straight up and down.
I'm currently pretending that, like, if I lose this battle, I lose the Knoxville Nationals because I'm fighting for my life.
Okay,
you're about to meet Jeff Gordon, dude.
I drank half a bottle of wine tonight, and I can tell you it's winning the battle.
Oh no!
It's probably the Chinese food from last week. But anyway, Thanks for doing this, Shane. Thanks for doing this, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.
Good stuff.